This is the fifth session of week 3, and in this session we will talk about Ajinomoto that was invented in Japan and introduced to Koreans by 1910s. Ajinomoto has become an essential part of any Asian cuisine. As a matter of fact, the scientist who invented this was awarded with a big prize, because he was the person who discovered a new taste. Up to this point, in human society, there were 4 major tastes: sweet, bitter, sour, and hot. These were the 4 tastes. But it was the Japanese who discovered a new taste which they call umami taste. Now this umami taste comes from when we boil protein, particularly fish or meat or even soybean and wakame or mi역, long time, and it creates this sweety kind but deep, very soft taste. So this was added to the taste of human race, and that's a 5th taste. When this was produced in 1909, it quickly became so popular in Japan and naturally introduced to Koreans very soon during Colonial Period. And the Japanese company Ajinomoto, which means the friend of taste, and that company was very good and rather aggressive in marketing their products in all Japanese colonies, including Korea and Taiwan and in Manchuria, and also later in Southeast Asia. So today, not only Southeast Koreans and Japanese, but also Southeast Asians consume huge amount of Ajinomoto. Like a Vietnamese noodle soup, pho, includes quite a bit of Ajinomoto today. But anyway, in Korea, the Korean newspapers in already 1920s and 30s, they advertise Ajinomoto here. So here it says, on the left, advertisement says, you can make anything so tasty with just a little bit of Ajinomoto. And you see beautiful Korean housewife is proudly pouring small amount of Ajinomoto into her food. And it was particularly popular among Koreans because Koreans had a lot of stew dishes and soup dishes. And just adding a little bit of it, it changes the taste. On the image on the right, it says, just a little bit, you can maximize the taste of your food. Interestingly, after the colonial period ended in 1945, it became a serious problem in Korea because suddenly the trade relationship between Japan and Korea was severed, and Koreans could not get Ajinomoto. Of course, it is a serious problem because they were already addicted to it. And that's why very soon the Korean businessmen went to Japan and tried to learn how to make Ajinomoto. By 1956, a gentleman, Im Dae-hong, who established the famous company Mi-won at that time, and he started to produce Mi-won in South Korea. And of course, his company Daesang became a big company in South Korea as a food company. And this Korean Mi-won was also exported to other Asian countries in Southeast Asia particularly. So, and then later, because Mi-won became so dominantly big, and other companies also wanted to jump into this market, which has been rapidly growing. So 제일제당 and CJ, whatever these companies started to produce 다시다 and so on. So in today's South Korean market, 다시다 is dominating the market. And anyway, this is very popular ingredients for any Asian cuisine. During the COVID, suddenly food delivery industry became so popular in most of the countries, including New Zealand, but particularly in Korea and China, I think this business is probably the most developed in these countries. And the food delivery business began during the colonial period. And again, you can see this from this Ajinomoto advertisement in 1930. April, the newspaper carries out this advertisement. And it says, a popular restaurant that takes a lot of takeaway food, delivery food. Now here, two very skilled bicycle the food delivery people, on their bicycle, they are carrying 설렁탕, which is very popular Korean food. And 설렁탕, of course, is a lot of soup there. So if you add Ajinomoto, 설렁탕 became tasty. And then if you make that 설렁탕, then your business, restaurant business will go well. Okay, so interesting. And so also the newspaper article reports a delivery man who is not terribly different from today's delivery people. And on his bicycle, he's carrying, it's just amazing how he carries that 설렁탕, the soup-based food, on his shoulder while riding bicycle. Delivery food, as I said, became relatively popular in Seoul and Busan and other big urban centers. And next, we will talk about the alcoholic beverage industry that was very much damaged during colonial period.